Hello hockey fans, Oddman Rush here and welcome back to another video. Earlier this week, on February 26th, the Kontinental Hockey League finally concluded its regular season schedule. Now with the 68-game timetable in the books, and with the 2023 Gagarin Cup playoffs already underway, what better way to celebrate this event than by highlighting the various NHL alumni who lit the league on fire over the last 6 months. So in today's video, allow me to take you through my list of the top 10 former NHLers who dominated the Kontinental Hockey League this season. Kicking things off at number 10, we have Linden Vey. The first of many Canadian players on this list, Linden Vey produced quite the impressive season during his latest year in the K. A 4th round pick in the 2009 draft by the LA Kings, Linden Vey would suit up in 138 NHL games over parts of 4 seasons split between the Kings, the Vancouver Canucks and the Calgary Flames, scoring 14 goals and 44 points for his efforts. After leaving the league behind in 2017, the Canadian forward has spent the last 6 seasons almost exclusively in the KHL, where he has suited up for 3 different franchises during that span, and he even won the 2019 Gagarin Cup as a member of CSKA Moscow. This season though, Vey spent the entire year with Kazakhstani side Baris Astana, where the alternate captain of the roster finished as the team's leading scorer thanks to potting 18 goals and 41 points in 57 regular season games. Granted, Baris finished dead last in the Eastern Conference this year, so the team as a whole didn't do too great, but Vey clearly proved himself to be the best of a rather underwhelming bunch. Next up at number 9, we have Brandon Yip. One of the more obscure entries in this video, Brandon Yip produced a career year in Russia during the 22-23 season. An 8th round pick by the Colorado Avalanche all the way back in 2004, Brandon Yip spent parts of 5 seasons in the NHL, split between the Avalanche, the Nashville Predators and the Phoenix Coyotes, where he potted 29 goals and 56 points in 174 games. Following his final stint in the show during the 13-14 season, the Canadian forward would spend the next few years playing for various different teams in the hockey world before joining KHL side Kunlun Red Star in 2017, where he has played almost exclusively in the several years since then. During the 22-23 season, Yip returned to Kunlun's roster for his 5th year with the team and somehow produced his greatest performance yet, as the 37-year-old and captain of the roster led the entire team in scoring with 21 goals and 42 points in 59 KHL games. Though Kunlun failed to reach the Gagarin Cup playoffs and they were one of the worst teams in the league yet again, it's safe to say that Yip led by example and then some. Moving on to number 8, we have Jordan Weal. Yet another Canadian forward to be featured on this list, Jordan Weal picked up right where he left off during his sophomore year in the KHL. A 3rd round pick in the 2010 draft by the LA Kings, Jordan Weal would play 218 NHL games over parts of 5 seasons split between 4 different teams, where he notched 32 goals and 69 points for his efforts. After spending the 2019-20 season with the Montreal Canadiens organisation, and after spending the following year down in the minors, the Canadian forward would take his talents to Russia and join the KHL, as he spent last year with Akbars Kazan and registered nearly a point-a-game performance for the team. This season though, Weal joined fellow KHL side Dynamo Moscow and made quite the first impression for his new side, as the 30-year-old led the entire roster in scoring with 14 goals and 43 points in 62 KHL games. With Moscow clinching the 5th seed in the Western Conference and with them punching their ticket to the postseason, Weal is the first player on this list who is taking part in the 2023 Gagarin Cup playoffs. Now since Dynamo shall be facing Torpedo in the 1st round, and since he has already experienced his first taste of the playoffs last season, I wouldn't be surprised if Weal continued to lead his team offensively regardless of where they end up in the postseason. Now at number 7 we have Brendan Leipsic. The first of several controversial names to be featured in this video, Brendan Leipsic showed no signs of slowing down during his recent season in Russia. A 3rd round pick in 2012 by the Nashville Predators, Brendan Leipsic would spend parts of 4 seasons in the league split between 5 different teams, scoring 17 goals and 59 points in the process. After his unceremonious exit from the show following the 2019-20 season, the Canadian forward has spent the last 3 years in the KHL, where he played the opening season with CSKA Moscow before a trade to Metalurg Magnitogorsk in May of 2021. During the 22-23 season, Leipzig returned to Magnitogorsk once again and registered his most productive year yet, as he finished second on the team in scoring thanks to potting 11 goals and 44 points in 65 regular season games. With Metallurg securing the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference, and with them returning to the postseason for the 15th year in a row, Leipzig shall be making his 3rd consecutive appearance in the Gagarin Cup playoffs. Now, given that he has been a productive player during his previous 2 trips to the competition, and given that he registered 20 points in 24 playoff games just last year, I would be genuinely shocked if Leipzig didn't pick up right where he left off over the coming days and weeks. On to number 6, we have Ryan Spooner. A regular feature on these lists, year in, year out, Ryan Spooner would get back to his old self again after returning to a former team. A 2nd round pick by the Boston Bruins in 2010, Ryan Spooner would suit up in 325 NHL games over parts of 7 seasons split between 4 different teams, where he potted 48 goals and 167 points during that span. After playing for 3 different NHL teams during the 18-19 season alone, the Canadian forward has spent the last 4 years almost exclusively in the K, where he spent the opening 2 seasons with Belarusian side Dynamo Minsk before joining Avto Mobilist Yekaterinburg for the recent 21-22 season. This year though, Spooner returned to Minsk for the 22-23 season and produced his greatest performance yet, as the alternate captain of the roster led the team in scoring with 19 goals and 47 points in 64 KHL games. With Minsk securing the 8th seed in the West, and with Spooner having never suited up in the Gagarin Cup playoffs, the 31-year-old has gotten his first taste of the postseason and is trying to keep up the good work for a Dynamo side that's eager to embark on a deep playoff run. That said, Minsk face SKA St. Petersburg in the first round, who posted the best record during the regular season and who have eliminated Dynamo numerous times over the last few seasons, so they certainly have their work cut out for them, you know. Halfway through this list now, at number 5, we have Mikhail Grigorenko. The first Russian player in this video, Mikhail Grigorenko produced another impressive season for the defending Gagarin Cup champions. The 12th overall pick of the 2012 NHL draft by the Buffalo Sabres, Mikhail Grigorenko would play parts of 6 seasons in the league, split between the Sabres, the Colorado Avalanche and the Columbus Blue Jackets, where he notched 26 goals and 76 points in 249 games in the process. Following his brief return to the show during the 2021 season, the Russian forward would head back home and rejoin KHL side CSKA Moscow, the team he had spent his prior 3 seasons with before his stint in Columbus. During the 22-23 season though, Grigorenko was back in Moscow for his 5th year with the team, where he ended up registering one of his most productive seasons with the team, as he finished 2nd on the roster in scoring with 22 goals and 49 points in 64 KHL games. Since Moscow secured the 2nd seed in the Western Conference, and since CSKA have won 2 of the last 3 Gagarin Cups, Moscow are entering the 2023 playoffs as heavy favourites to repeat their recent success. And if Grigorenko can produce similar postseason numbers as he did during their prior 2 championship runs, both the player and the organisation could secure their 3rd cup very, very soon. Next, at number 4, we have Reid Boucher. Another controversial player on this list, Reid Boucher was back to his high-scoring ways thanks to his reunion with Omsk. A 4th round pick by the New Jersey Devils in 2011, Reid Boucher would suit up in 133 NHL games over parts of 6 seasons split between the Devils, the Nashville Predators and the Vancouver Canucks, scoring 20 goals and 42 points for his efforts. After last playing in the show during the 18-19 season, and having pled guilty to some pretty serious crimes early last year, the American forward has spent the last 2 seasons exclusively in the KHL, where he has suited up for a pair of teams during that span. This season though, Boucher rejoined his first Russian side Avangard Omsk and picked up right where he left off during his sophomore year with the team, as he finished 3rd on the roster in scoring by notching 31 goals and 55 points in 64 regular season games. Given that there were only 3 KHL players who scored at least 30 goals this year, Boucher put his name amongst some pretty prestigious company. With Avangard taking the 3rd seed in the East, and with Boucher having helped Avangard lift their first Gagarin Cup in 2021, both the player and the organisation are hoping that the 29-year-old can repeat his past success and take home the championship once again. Will they be able to do so? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Now at number 3 we have Alexander Radulov. The most experienced NHLer on this list by a pretty sizable margin, Alexander Radulov put his wealth of experience to great use during his debut year back home. The 15th overall pick of the 2004 draft by the Nashville Predators, Alexander Radulov would play 524 NHL games over parts of 9 seasons split between the Predators, the Montreal Canadiens and the Dallas Stars, where he potted 144 goals and 368 points during that span. After spending the recent 21-22 season with Dallas, and once his contract with the team had expired, the Russian forward would head back across the pond and return to his homeland, as he joined KHL side Akbars Kazan for the 22-23 season. Though he last played in Russia back in 2016, and though he was one of the greatest players in league history during his first 8 seasons in the K, the 36-year-old would hit the ground running during his debut year with Kazan, as the alternate captain of the team led the entire roster in scoring thanks to potting 25 goals and 57 points in 62 regular season games. Since Kazan secured the first seed in the East, and since they haven't won a championship since 2018, the team are eager to get back to their winning ways and get their hands on the cup once again. And if anyone can help them achieve this goal, Alexander Radulov can. Penultimately, at number 2, we have Nikita Gusev. The least experienced NHLer in this video, Nikita Gusev produced quite the incredible season in the KHL. A 7th round pick in the 2012 draft by the Tampa Bay Lightning, Nikita Gusev would play just 2 seasons in the NHL, split between the New Jersey Devils and the Florida Panthers, notching 17 goals and 54 points in 97 games for his efforts. Now, while I only feature players that have typically played at least 100 games in the show, Gusev's season was so impressive that I had to include him on this list. After all, the Russian forward would rejoin SKA St. Petersburg on November 1st, 2022, exactly 2 months after the regular season had already begun. He registered 23 goals and 49 points in just 37 games, and he finished the year with the highest points per game across the entire KHL. Given that the regular season was 68 games long, and given that he only played roughly half of SKA's fixtures this year, Gusev was back to his old self again, and then some. I mean, the guy finished top 20 in scoring, despite playing considerably less games than everyone else. If that's not dominating the league, I don't know what is. Now, before we reach the top spot on this list, I would just like to give a quick honourable mention to Sibir Novosibirsk forward Taylor Beck, who despite playing only 92 games during his NHL career, was tied for 6th in scoring across the entire KHL thanks to registering 18 goals and 55 points in 67 regular season games. Considering he has spent the last 6 years almost exclusively in the K, and considering he had surpassed 40 points just once during that span, the 31-year-old produced quite the career year, so he deserved a little nod for his accomplishment, right? And finally, at number 1, we have Dmitry Yaskin. The most productive player in the KHL during the 22-23 season, Dmitry Yaskin takes the top spot on this list thanks to his high-scoring return to Russia. A 2nd round pick in the 2011 draft by the St. Louis Blues, Dmitry Yaskin would suit up in 315 NHL games over parts of 8 seasons split between the Blues, the Washington Capitals and the Arizona Coyotes, where he scored 27 goals and 70 points during that span. After spending the recent 21-22 season with the Coyotes, and after scoring just a single point in 12 games with the team, the Czech forward would return to the KHL, where he had spent the prior 2 years of his career, but would take his talents to a new team, as he joined SKA St. Petersburg on July 25th, 2022. During the 22-23 season, Yaskin would suit up for SKA for the first time and produce quite the debut with the team, as the captain of the roster led his team in scoring thanks to potting 40 goals and 62 points in 67 KHL games. Not only would he sit atop the scoring race with more goals and points than anyone else in the league, the 29-year-old became just the 2nd player in KHL history to score at least 40 goals in a season, the first being Sergei Mozyakin and his 48-goal year in 16-17. Oh, and Yaskin also led St. Petersburg to the best regular season record in the KHL. He looks primed to get his hands on his first Gagarin Cup championship, and he is all but guaranteed to be crowned league MVP. So he has clearly led by example, both on and off the ice. Not bad for a guy who couldn't crack the Coyotes last season, right guys? And on that note, I'm going to end today's video. Those were the top 10 former NHLers who dominated the KHL this season. What do you guys think about my list? Are you surprised to see some of the names that were mentioned, or did I leave someone completely obvious out? Do let me know in the comments below, I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I do hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye! A big thank you to Bexy93, Burned Retinas, Drew Fawcett, Houston NG, Raquel and Worthless Pieces for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.